now you have, I don't know if you can see that, but the diaper with your markings on it. Now you are going to take your little pokey tool and very carefully you put one hand inside the diaper, and on the inside of the diaper, let's see if I can show you, there's the PUL, which is this wonderful stuff to pull, and then this extra liner in there that's kind of a white piece of fabric, and it's only about, I don't know, 2 inches long. You want to make sure you poke the holes through the PUL and this extra layer, just so that you have, I guess, more fabric to go through when you're doing the snaps, because you don't want them to rip right through the fabric. So I have one hand inside, and I kind of spread my fingers, and that way I have the fabric pretty straight where I'm going to poke my hole. And be very careful not to poke your fingers, but what I usually do is, so keep the fabric pretty taut, line up my poker with my mark, and I start pushing, and then I usually kind of pinch the fabric and keep pushing so that it goes through straight and it goes through both layers. Okay, so now I have one, and I just keep going across. Same thing, kind of keep the fabric taut, and then start pushing through. Now I have all my holes poked. Let me show you the inside. You can see that I went, I hope you can see, I went through both layers of fabric. So I went through the blue outer layer, and also this tiny little extra piece of fabric. I don't know if you can really see it, but I do have little holes there. You really want to make sure you're careful when you're poking the holes not to go through this part. This is all the part that you don't want to go through, just here. So now we are going to go ahead and attach our snaps. You're going to need, for each one, a cap and the socket. So what I do is I grab my cap, and I kind of turn, bunch it up, and turn it back so that I can see on my inner fabric kind of where my marks are, so I can guide, it's a guide where I can put my cap. So I line up the tip of my cap to where the hole is. Okay, so that's the inside. And then I flip it over and just make sure it's coming through on the other side where I want it to. You just push it through. So there it is. And you make sure that the cap is sticking all the way through. Then you take your socket, stick it on top, and I kind of push it down a little bit. Then you take your pliers, and you can do this 2 ways. The way I find it a lot easier, honestly, is to go line it up, try to get the least amount of fabric you can right here under your snap, and through the fabric, I don't know if you can see that there, through the fabric you're going to line up the back of the cap inside your pliers, and sometimes it takes a little maneuvering so that you get it in there pretty straight. Okay. Now, before I pinch, I make sure I just give it a little bit to make sure it sounds like I'm in there straight, and then I press all the way down. And there you have it. Now, I have found that the easiest and the fastest way to do it is to get a bunch of caps, stick the caps through, and then start doing the sockets. So, let me go ahead and show you again. I bunch it up so that I usually put my finger on the little mark that I had on the front, flip it over, and try to get them to line up. And I push my cap through. Then I go ahead and move on to the next hole. That way I have either, you can do all of them at once, all your caps sticking through, or just a few at a time. I usually end up just doing a few at a time because I have had caps that have fallen out and I just have to go back and redo it anyways. So I usually do, I don't know, like 3 or 4 at a time. But it expedites the process a little bit here. There I have 3 of my caps through now, and so now I can go back and put my sockets on and do 3 at a time, and then I can go back and do a few more. So I put on my socket, push down, line up my pliers. I kind of pull the fabric around to make sure that it's really sitting inside there, and then pinch. So now I'm on the second row, and I've already put in a few caps down here, and I've already done 1 socket. But I just wanted to show you the easiest way of doing these. So you stick on the socket, and then what I do is I take just this first layer of fabric and I kind of pull it out and then fold it over, or fold it under, I guess, the cap. That way you have just this thin layer of fabric to work with, and then you're going to just take your pliers and put that layer of fabric in. That way you're not going through a ton of material when you pinch your cap